Hey guys, it's math. Today we're doing measuring length using metric units, and this is lesson 1412. We've been working on what's called customary units, inches, feet, yards. Those are customary. We use those measurements mostly in the United States. There are a couple of other countries that use it as well, but most of the world measures using metric units, so we need to study that as well, which would be like centimeters, meters, kilometers, things like that. Okay, so to begin with, it says measure this pencil in inches, then measure it again in centimeters. Now, I sent a ruler home with you the other day. Yours looks a little different than mine. But on one side of the ruler, the one that's labeled 0 through 12, those are our inches. That's our customary units of measure. Where the other side of the ruler, there's a lot more. There are about 30 of these. Those are what we call centimeters. And you notice that centimeters, it takes about 30 to make the whole ruler, and it only takes about 12 inches to make the whole ruler. So we know that inches are longer, and if inches are longer, it's going to take less of them. Centimeters are shorter, so it's going to take more of them. So I'm going to begin by measuring this pencil in inches, and I'm going to line up the 0 on the inch side of my ruler. And I'm going to stretch it across to where the arrow ends. See, there's the pencil. That line up at the top just kind of helps me to see where it ends. I can see that this pencil measures about 6 inches. So I'm going to record that down at the bottom in the inches blank. I'm going to write a 6 in the inches. And then I'm going to measure that exact same pencil, but I'm going to use the centimeter side. So I'm going to turn my ruler over. Still going to start by lining it up at 0. And I'm going to see what centimeter is it closest to. It looks to me that it measures about maybe a little more than 15 centimeters. So it measures about 15 centimeters. It's the exact same pencil, the exact same length. It's just a different unit of measure, so it's going to have a different number. It measures about 6 inches or about 15 centimeters. Now the question is, which number is greater? Well, of course we know that 15 is greater, and that's because the centimeters are smaller, so it takes more of them. Inches are longer, so it takes less of them. But let's focus a little more now on just those metric units, centimeters and meters. It says up at the top, you can use different units to measure the lengths of objects. Would you use more centimeters or more meters to measure the length of the teacher's desk? Well, unfortunately, I did not bring a meter stick home, but I do need you to know that 1 centimeter is about the width of your pinky, and it would take 100 centimeters to equal just 1 meter. So a meter would be much longer than this ruler, because it would take 100 of them. As a matter of fact, I have this ruler, or this measuring tape again, that I showed you earlier in the week, and I know that it would take 100 centimeters to equal 1 meter. So I'm going to start here at the very end, and I need to find 100 centimeters. There it is. I can't even lean back far enough. There you go, 100 centimeters. So inches are small, but centimeters are smaller. Yards, when we're talking customary, are large, but meters are actually bigger. It's a little bit bigger than a yard, but it's approximately the same size. So think about when we were measuring 3 feet equals a yard the other day. We're talking about that same length when we're talking about 1 meter or 100 centimeters. So once again, it says measure the desk using centimeters. So he measures and he says it is about 91 centimeters long. Measure the desk using meters. And he says it is about 1 meter long. It's not exactly, it's about. I used more centimeters than meters because a centimeter is a much smaller unit than a meter. Okay, so it's more about comparing today, not so much about measuring, but more about comparing. More centimeters because they're smaller, less meters because they're much larger. Number 1, now this is a bookshelf, and I don't have a bookshelf that looks like this, So I moved over my plant shelf. I've moved all my plants outside, but this is what my plants usually sit on my back porch during the winter. They're all outside. But I'm going to think about this shelf. Okay? And if I wanted to guess about how many centimeters long this shelf is, I'd be thinking about how many centimeters. That's about 1 pinky wide. Okay? How many centimeters? I'm going to guess it to be 90 centimeters. That's going to be about how many centimeters I think it is. That's my estimate. But I'm going to go ahead and measure. Starting at 0, and I'm going to come all the way across, and it actually measures more like 85 centimeters. Okay, so my shelf measures about 85 centimeters, and I want you to go ahead and record that on your paper. 85 centimeters. If I wanted to measure in meters, though, remember that a meter is 100 centimeters. So if it actually measures 85 centimeters, I could say that that's about 1 meter. It's a little less, but it's about 1 meter. So that's what I want us both to record on our page. About 1 meter. 85 centimeters and about 1 meter. Now the question is that more centimeters or is it more meters? Well, since meters are much longer, it only takes one of them. Centimeters are much shorter, so it takes a lot more. You have to have a lot more centimeters than meters. And that's because centimeters are so small. Okay, so let's think about the same thing. Number 2, I'm going to measure this shelf that's sitting right next to me. So I'm turning this again. You're not going to be able to see the whole thing. This is where I keep my beach towels and stuff since I live out here at the lake. And I want to ask myself about how many centimeters would that be? Well, let me see. I'm going to start at 0 and I'm going to go from the top and I'm going to stretch down to the bottom. And I see that it actually measures probably about 160 centimeters. So please record 160 on your paper. About 160 centimeters. And now about how many meters would that be? Well, 1 meter would be 100. So really, this is closer to 2 meters long. So I'm going to record about 2 meters. It's not exactly, it's a little more than 1.5, but it's closer to 2. So we're going to call it 2 meters. So I've recorded about 160 centimeters and about 2 meters. Now I'm going to answer the question, is that more centimeters or is that more meters? Of course, it's more centimeters because centimeters are much, much smaller, so it takes more of them. Meters are much longer, or 100 times as much, so it takes less of them. Now, turn to the next page, and this is the part that you can tear out because this is the only part that you're going to turn in. This is number 3, and it shows a bulletin board. I don't have a bulletin board here at my house. You may not. You may have one. You may not. I don't know. But you know what I was thinking? This bulletin board is probably about the size of maybe like my bathroom mirror. So if I wanted to measure my bathroom mirror, I could do that. So it would be fine with me if you went in and measured your bathroom mirror and ask yourself about how many meters and about how many centimeters. Then you're going to circle, is that fewer centimeters or fewer meters? Number 4 is a door. I've got a door back there. I can turn my video again. And if I measured that, I would know that that's about 2 meters. Okay? And then I could measure using my ruler to see about how many centimeters that was as well to record there. And then you're going to circle, is that fewer centimeters or fewer meters? Now, number 5. Jax measured the height of his bedroom in both centimeters and meters. Did he use fewer centimeters or fewer meters? Explain. And the key word here is fewer. If he measured it in centimeters and in meters, which one would he use fewer of? He's going to use the fewest of the ones that are the biggest. So keep that in mind. When you turn to the back, number 6 says, which unit would you need the fewest of to measure the jump rope? the fewest of to measure the jump rope? And it would be a real life jump rope, okay? Not this picture, but if you're thinking about a real life jump rope. Would you need the fewest number of centimeters, the fewest number of inches, the fewest number of meters, or are they all the same? They're not all the same. It's definitely not the last one. So if you determine which one would you need the fewest of to measure a jump rope. Number 7 says estimate the length of a baseball bat in centimeters and meters. So think about a baseball. And estimate means just make a good guess. And it says which number must be greater? Explain. Would you need a greater number of meters or a greater number of centimeters? So it's less about the measurement and more about understanding which one you would need the greater of. Number 8, if you had to measure the length of the hallway outside your classroom. So imagine leaving our classroom and say go into the restroom. Would you use centimeters or meters? Think about which would be the best unit of measure. And finally, if you had to measure the length of your math book using centimeters or meters, which would you use? And tell me why you chose that unit of measure. Would it be centimeters or would it be meters for your math book? Think through those. Tear out just that one page and put it with your packet work. Thanks, guys.